Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share another scrapbook process video with you. And if you haven't already guessed, today I am sharing a pocket page process. Now, I created this one using my January 2022 kit from Hit Kit Club, and I created it as a companion page to that layout there. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have a process video for that layout, but I do have a short video here on my channel where I show you how to use Distress Oxides 3 ways to create the background for that page. So I will put a link to that short video. It's 1 minute in the comments below. So when you're done here, you can pop over and have a look and at least see how I created the background for that layout. Okay, so as I said, this is a companion page. So I had already created that layout, and I was creating this page with some extra photos from the same event or the same day. So this was my boys' Easter hat parade at school from prep. So it was 4 years ago. And even though I didn't have the greatest photos from this day, like the quality of my photos were not good, the lighting wasn't good, my phone wasn't great, but I really wanted to get these documented because they really do sort of tell the story of the day, and it's just another thing for them to look at in their albums. And boy, do they love looking at these pocket pages. They are definitely their favourite pages to look at in the album. Okay, so if you've seen my pocket page process before, you'll know that I start by getting all my photos into my sleeve where I want them to sit. And then I go through and fill the gaps with pattern paper or pocket cards or whatever I'm going to fill the gaps with. And then I go back to the top left and I work from top left to bottom right to go through and complete each section of the page. So the first thing I do when I looked at this pocket page was I wanted to carry some of the elements from the layout that sits next to it over onto this page. And the very first thing I was drawn to was that brilliant paper there, which has got like that kaleidoscope type pattern on it from the collection, which incidentally is called Kaleidoscope. And I wanted to use some of that on this page. So I thought it would be perfect for, a title card. So that's what's going up in that top right corner. Now, I did pull out all of my scraps from this kit because this is not a pocket page kit, so it doesn't come with pocket cards, unlike some of the other collections that I've worked with recently. So what I was just doing is trimming down some of my paper scraps that matched with the page and using those basically as pocket cards. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to embellish each one as I go. Okay, so now you can see the layout there. You can see where I've actually placed those photos in the middle row and the bottom row. They don't actually end up staying there. Okay, so it did look balanced to me at this point when I had simply just papers in there without embellishments and things like that. But when I looked at the colours and I looked at what I was doing, I ended up actually switching some of them around. So you will see how that pans out as we go along. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is I'm working in that 6x4 pocket in the top corner there. Now, if you haven't seen one of my previous pocket page videos, I will let you know what I'm using there. I actually use some very cheap matte photo paper. It's super thin. I wouldn't actually print photos on it, but it just gives me something that is 6x4 size to start with to stick the photo and the pattern paper onto to make one complete card. I don't like the things being able to shift around in the pocket at all. I like them to stay in place. So I use that really cheap, I think I got it off, I want to say I got it at Officeworks here in Australia. I couldn't tell you the brand of it because I didn't keep the box, but just know that it's super thin and it just gives me that base just to hold the pieces together. So what I'm doing there is I'm actually just adding a little embellishment onto that photo of my son. Now, there's a funny story behind that photo. When they were coming into the school hall in their, class lines, he saw me sitting in the audience on a chair and just ran out of the line and just launched at me to give me a hug. He was so excited to see me. And you may not be able to see it there, but if you look closely at the photo, the little girl that was walking behind him was just so shocked with him breaking ranks from the line that she has got her hand over her mouth giggling at him, like just bursting out of the line and giving me a hug. So that was the only photo I got of him in the parade because he crash tackled me. So all I did with that card is I've added one of those wood veneer look chipboard stickers. So the one that I added on his photo there says "Be Wild," and I used a little scrap of torn pattern paper. And then I added the little heart there that's got the animal print on it because I thought that tied in really well with "Be Wild." Then I've just got simple typewritten journaling that I cut into strips and stuck that on. And there was a little embellishment, a resin embellishment that says "I love you." Now, I've had these sitting on my desk lately because I want to use them up. So I took the opportunity to put one on the page. Okay, here we are. Title card. That gorgeous paper. You know what? That gorgeous paper, as gorgeous as it is, was going to overwhelm this entire page with that stunning pattern. So I wanted a way to tone it down and draw attention to the fact that I wanted to use those sort of geoprint alphas that I've got there. They got totally lost putting them straight on the paper. So I couldn't even bother pulling out a paintbrush. So some people may have been horrified with that. I just pulled out a tube of white acrylic paint and went to town with my fingertip and just used that because I always say fingers make the best brushes. You'll never lose them. I just use my finger just to smear paint in the center of it. You can still see the pattern coming through and you can still sort of see the colors showing through underneath, but it takes away that boldness and it allows that title to shine. So I used those, as I said, geoprint alphas that came in my hip kit for the main word in the title, which was Easter. And then I'm using these alphas that I had in my stash from Pink Fresh Studio just to put in the other two words, which was Hat Parade. Now, if you were watching very closely there, and if you know me well and you know how impatient I am, you would have seen that when I used my T-square, it ripped up a little bit of the paint. But it didn't just happen once. It happened twice. I didn't learn the first time when I put it down to put the main title word on and it ripped some of the paint off. And you can see, there you go, it just got stuck there again. And it's pulled some of the paint off and it's left a little mark. So that's obviously where I'm going to stick an embellishment because, the rule, you make a mistake, you can always cover it up. So I'm never overly worried about making mistakes like that. And quite frankly, even if that mark had been left and been visible at the end, I wouldn't have cared because my kids are not going to flick through this album in 20, 30 years time and go, "Oh shit, look, Mum ripped some of the paint off there. Isn't that a shame?" No, they're not even going to be interested in the paint or the alphas or anything. All they're going to be interested in is looking at the photos of themselves and reading the stories. All the prettiness, that's really for my benefit, isn't it? Okay, so this title card, there we got the words Easter Hat Parade. I found that cute little shoe there, which I thought that worked really well with the fact that they were parading and they were walking around. That was on the chipboard sticker sheet that came in this kit. And then I needed something sort of to lead into the shoe. And one of the branding strips off the paper had these rainbow stripes on it. So I just trimmed it down, had the rainbow stripes running up to the shoe there, and that was Easter Hat Parade. The only other thing I did on this card was I did a little bit of stamping and I just stamped the word documented. And you know what? That card was done. Put it in the pocket. See, I'm not into like messing around too much with these pages. Now you will see that I keep pulling that layout in for reference because I'm looking at how it looks as a whole entity, like because they're going to be sitting beside one another in the album. So obviously I want to see how the entire spread looks together. So that's why you can see me keep pulling that in for reference. Okay, so here is where things got interesting. I ended up putting that photo into a different pocket to what I initially intended because I didn't want it sitting underneath the photo on top, and I just found a better way to space them out. So all I did was stuck that little die cut, let your light shine, a little chipboard sticker heart on that photo, and that photo was done. Now, I've talked previously about adding embellishments into the negative space in your photos, or using embellishments to cover up distractions in your background. And I just think it's just fun. It's just another little element for the viewer's eye to look at as it moves around the page, and it just helps liven your whole page up. Okay, this next card, where I've got the patterned paper base that I started with, I really wanted to put that. Now, that rainbow, it wasn't even a whole rainbow. This came off a scrap of paper, and it was the edge of the paper, and obviously some of the rainbow got cut off. So I just worked with that and found a way to stick it on the edge of the page, and here I am making my own card, basically. So I had a torn bit of paper, I had a cut off scrap of rainbow paper, I had a chipboard phrase, and then I pulled out my white Sharpie, my paint pen there, and I just added a few little dots and crosses and things like that, and there you have it, another card done from scratch. Didn't have to get a fancy card out, and I used up scraps and things that I had left over, and I think it came up $1 million. So I ended up moving that next photo, which was the photo of my other son leading out the parade, holding the sign. I moved that back over so that obviously I had those photos evenly spaced on that middle row. I didn't want them sort of clustered together too closely. And I'm really happy with the final balance of this page. So I am glad I went ahead and shuffled that middle row around a little bit. So here I am making another card here. I've got another piece of pattern paper that I cut down to measure 3x4. I used another scrap from that branding strip that had the rainbow stripes on it that I used on the card above. I've added a die cut phrase, which is that enjoy every moment. And I am just cutting a wonky little heart out of pattern paper here, which was off the edge of one of the papers there, just to stick on. And I believe I layer this with a chipboard heart as well from the chipboard sticker sheet. So now you're going to notice that my video sort of, I really hate having to flip these pages over just to get them in without sort of things catching and so on and so forth. But once you've got them in, they're good to go. I think there is a little bit of this video moving. Clearly, I was going a little bit too slowly for my camera and it decided to nod off. I mean, much like I do if the kid's story gets too long. So you will notice that it sort of skips ahead in one part, but I'm sure you're all smart enough to see what I've done. Anyway, moving on. So this bottom card, again, I used one of those matte photo papers, the 6x4 ones. They just make such a good base for when you want 2 3x4 items in a 6x4 pocket. Perfect base, really thin. There you go, you can see it skipped ahead. Sorry about that. I'll apologize on behalf of my camera. So I used this card here again as another journaling card. I went off, I did some typing, cut it into strips. You can see I've used similar elements to the other cards on this one. A torn bit of paper, a die cut phrase, and one of those wood veneer look chipboard stickers. Next to the photo, 6x4 card, done. Now you can see the one next to it at the bottom there is also done. I just added alphas to that, die cuts, and stuck the photo in the middle. And I was just telling the story, this part of the story, about how after the parade, a lot of the kids got to go home, and school said the kids could have an early mark if parents wanted to take them. And my kids were really excited to have an early mark, but I left them at school and went back at normal pickup time. So that was their faces. Oh yeah, are we going home? No, you're staying here. They weren't the only ones staying there, and they did get to do fun activities for the afternoon, but that was their rolling of the eyes and shaking of the head when I told them, no, you're staying until 2:30. Surprise. I love pulling out my roller stamps for these pages because it's just easy just to sort of stamp a little phrase. Now, block your ears if you're not one for swearing, because the phrase that I've stamped underneath that photo of their faces says, you've got to be shitting me. And that stamp came from Typo, and it is one of my favourites. What else did I do on this? I don't think there's anything else fancy or technical that you really need to know about. I think this was basically it. So, as I said, it just works as a companion to the other layout that I created. They work alongside each other in the album to form a complete spread. Really happy with how it came out. Got to bust through a heap of scraps. Got more photos done. Even if they're not the best photos in the world, it doesn't matter. It's done, right? And that's all that matters. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you have enjoyed this process video. I'll put a link to that video with the distress oxides in it. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.